The Advocates is sponsored by the Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to The Advocates. I am your co-host, Mark Iorio, along with my buddy, my partner, and co-host, Al Cini.
It's such a pleasure.
How are you, my friend?
It's always, I'm telling you, it's great. It's going to be a great conversation.
Absolutely. We have Jim Maher with us today. Jim is zooming in from St. Louis, Missouri, and Jim is the founder and CEO of Archford Capital Strategies, otherwise known as Archford. Jim, welcome to the program. We're glad to have you here. Love to have you. Our program, Jim, is brought to you by the Kessler Foundation, and the Kessler Foundation helps folks with disabilities. They help get changes their lives. Yeah. It's an amazing program. So you are in good company, my friend. How are you, Jim?
Doing fantastic.
Great.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk about the Owners Summit, something that we've never seen anywhere else in this country. We want you to tell us a little bit about it, what it's, how it was sort of birthed, and sort of the meaning behind the Owners Summit, which is coming up on October 26th at the St. Louis Renaissance Airport Hotel.
Thank you. The Owners Summit is a biannual event that we started back in 2016, got into COVID in 2020. And we were able to get back on track. We pulled together about 250 business owners from the St. Louis region. And really what we're looking at is kind of these mid-sized type small businesses to mid-size. So think in terms of 10 to 250 employee type business owners. And what we've done this year that's very unique is we commissioned a study by Dr. Gloria Sueda. She's a professor at Southern Illinois University. And we asked her to drop a pin in the middle of St. Louis and do a 150-mile radius and just see how many of these businesses are out there. And ironically, there's 32,000 businesses that are in our market that are that 10 to 250 employee business. And there were some interesting statistics that came out of that study. One of those was that 2/3 of these businesses are no longer growing. So they're in decline. The other thing that was interesting was that 70% of our businesses in this market have been in business more than 15 years. Compare that to a national average of around 25% of the businesses being in business more than 15 years. And so, I look at this, from a co-business owner standpoint, and I'm a little concerned. You think about if these businesses don't continue and that number of employees, and I think you have a great term that you talk about, the butterfly effect, and how that impacts our communities. You think about the tax base, the erosion of that. And so a lot of this comes down to the fact that organizations don't plan. And there really isn't that second level of how would this continue, or how is this transferable? And we're going to talk a lot about that at the Owners Summit.
That's great.
It's this is so definitely in our wheelhouse. Mark, because it's a conversation we have all the time. There are so many business owners out there who are so busy working in their business that they just don't have the time to work on their business. How do you help those people, Jim?
It's funny. One of the presentations is going to be by an organization called Vistage. I've been involved with that organization for 20 years. It's for businesses that are basically $5 million in revenue to $250 million in revenue, and it's peer advisory type groups. And so we have 16 people in our group. We meet every month, once a day, 1 day a month, every month. I've been doing it for the last 20 years. But that type of camaraderie, that type of insight from other people that may be further along in the journey with their business, those conversations, those are the types of conversations we need happening on a bigger scale in our community, because a lot of CEOs don't avail themselves to those types of training and development.
Jim, we talked about the actual Owners Summit, which is October 26th at the St. Louis Renaissance. How many folks do you expect to be there, and what kinds of outcomes are you looking for in terms of, you want an owner maybe to come up to you or someone at the summit and maybe start a conversation, or what are the typical outcomes that you're looking to achieve?
From this summit, if I had one word, it would be awareness. And what we want to do with this study with SIUE and the speakers that we've selected throughout the day and the panels we've put together is just create an awareness of, yes, this is your business, but you kind of have a responsibility in this community, not only to your family, but to your employees and to the greater community. And so the more, the better you are at, here was a great statistic. One of the statistics she asked in the study was, how many people think it's important that we plan for, the succession of our business? And that number was like 78%.
Wow.
And she said, how many of you have thought about it? 91%. How many of you actually have a written plan? 24%.
Oh, jeez.
and so one of the outcomes that we're working toward is figuring out what are the constraints for these individuals and why they're not planning. Is it that it's a difficult conversation, or that I have to choose someone that would follow me, or that I don't know what I'm going to do about my daughter that's not in the business, or my son that's not in the business? What are those constraints that are preventing them from doing this? And then help them get through that. So one of the tools that we're going to illustrate is called the exit map. And that is a very simple tool for someone to spend about 15 minutes and just get started. And so a lot of times it's not about the end of the marathon. It's about that first step in the marathon to get you going. And that's really, if we can start to have this awareness, if we can start to have a community of people that, well, why haven't you thought about this? And I hear all the time from this segment of the community that they feel like they're the Verizon plan, that all the new phone purchasers, you get a brand, all the new customers get a brand new phone and everything. But they're like, hey, we've been out here for a long time, and what do we get? And there's not been that support. I'd like to have Verizon open its eyes and say, hey, all customers should be getting support. And this is what this segment needs. If we want to move the ball, if we want to better position those companies, I think the other part of the awareness is simply, if they have a plan, those types of companies perform better, not only in the future, but today. Yeah. And that's what we really need, is that type of energy around how are we going to do it today, and this is going to take us where we're going tomorrow.
Wow. Right. That's a big deal. So we've got business owners out there watching this episode of The Advocates and connecting with Jim, because he's got a great story to tell. According to your statistics, a quarter of those business owners are not doing anything about their exit strategy. I mean, they're worried about it, they're concerned about it, they're thinking about it, but they're not doing anything about it.
Yep.
They should come to this event on October 26th in St. Louis. Does it matter what kind of a business? Manufacturing, service? Does that make any difference?
Absolutely, absolutely not. Professional services, any business where do they want something more than a lifestyle business? I often tell the story of I grew up on a farm and I was fifth generation. And when a great grandparent died, or a great grandparent or grandparent, whoever passed, a pig was a pig, a cow was a cow, and an acre of farm ground was an acre of farm ground. There was no transferable value for what we had built from a brand or anything like that. And those are the people that we want to encourage. You know, if you want to make something more of your organization so that you can have the surety for the people that are on this mission with you in your organization, that there's going to be a tomorrow, there's going to be a future, then they need to do this type of work.
Yeah. Jim, you know, Al and I, we lecture about culture inside an organization all the time, and we're both members of the Exit Planning Exchange. And as I said to you the other day, one of the things that happens oftentimes with businesses that are trying to exit is that during the transaction, it's not it shouldn't be a transaction, it should be transformational from one generation to another.
Great
right?
point.
And oftentimes I know you got your JD, brother, but you know the attorneys walk away, the IB guys walk away, bankers, you know, the CPAs sometimes stick around, sometimes they walk away. All the deal makers walk away, and what's left are the people. And it's really quite important to understand that in these organizations, you're not talking about tiny little businesses. A 200 person company has an impact on not just the families that they employ, the whole community.
Really?
Right? So what do you talk about when you say culture and you look at this exit map that you put together? What is in there? What are people looking to think about and to accomplish as they get the output from that exit map?
I think it's what the exit map is. It's a methodology for people to start assessing where they are on the journey and what they have been building from a value standpoint and where are their shortfalls. You know, anyone that would come in from a due diligence standpoint would start to point out those things. I mean, it's kind of interesting on this conversation because I've been involved with the Exit Planning Institute for years and am a certified exit plan advisor. And I can't agree with the two of you more in that so often these are transactions for different professionals and professionals are siloed. And the reality is that's why I created Archford. So for the first 25 years of my career, I went around and got every professional designation, attorney, CPA, certified financial planner, securities, supervisory licenses, created a trust company, so in the banking and finance, and we do M&A work. And what we do at Archford is we try to bundle those professional services. So there's someone that has an interest in not only to the transaction, but through the transaction for the employees, for the owner's family, for the owner themselves. And that's really what we have done at Archford that I think is different. And it's one of the reasons I'm so passionate because to your point, I have seen it time and time again. Price Waterhouse did a great study with business owners selling their businesses. 3 years later, 75% of them wish they hadn't.
Wow.
What kind of outcome is that?
That's a horrible outcome.
You know, when you think about it.
Yeah. Jim, this we cannot thank you enough for joining us on this episode of The Advocates. We're going to have to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back. You know, people may be looking at this thinking about the advocate. Advocates is put together for people helping
Good
helping
people
others.
doing good things. That's what this is.
And that's what this is.
That's
It really
literally what this is.
It's impacting an entire community.
So much so.
And it's just nothing like it across the country that I've ever seen. So, Jim, don't go away. We'll be right back after this message from our sponsor, Kessler Foundation.
Aloha! Joe Silva here with Kukua Technologies. I'm excited to see you on Tuesdays on Morning Coffee for our tech tips.
Let's face it, lawyers get a bad rap. I'm Erin Brucey, host of Legal Breakdown, where we dissect legal topics for the everyday viewer, with a mix of interesting guests to talk about current events and hot legal topics. Let's work together to make the law accessible and relevant to everyone. Catch us every week on RVN Television.
Welcome back to The Advocates. I'm your co-host, Mark Iorio, and as I said earlier, my friend, partner, and business partner, and co-host Al Cini's with me today. We're talking about...
Where did you find this guy? He's a great guest.
He's great, right? Isn't he perfect?
Oh, yeah.
It's perfect for The Advocates, Al. It's just what Jim and Archford are doing in St. Louis, we should try to emulate around
everywhere,
the country. Right?
Everywhere, really.
But the one thing, Jim, I want you to comment on is that you commissioned this study through Southern Illinois State University. Is that who it was?
Southern Illinois University. At Edwardsville. Dr. Gloria Sueda was who we hired to conduct this study.
So not every community has a business school that would be willing to do this, right? So, but that kind of study, if you could replicate this effort around the United States, have these owners summits all over the country, Jim, that would be the first step, isn't that right?
Yes, this awareness mission is what we're on, and it takes the right partners. We call ours the Business Alliance Mastermind. So I have other CPA firms involved in this, other law firms involved in this. We have Psychological Associates is another sponsor of what's going on. So different organizations coming together to take and say, hey, we know this is a problem for our clients. You know, they have that demographic in their client base, and they're saying, how can we help? But if we don't get together in these communities, the problem so often is if it's just one out there dancing. You've seen the video with the one guy dancing on the hill and other people finally coming in or whatever. This is where this started, guys. Okay, I was dancing on a hill on that. But this is the excitement to me is to start to see the embrace of the other professionals and the other organizations, banks coming on board, starting to take and invest in these types of summits, and that's how we pull it. That's how you pull it together.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked a little bit during the break, Jim, about family-owned businesses because they have a kind of a unique dynamic. And I loved your answer, and I want you to repeat it again because you talked about how Archford provides a kind of hub and spoke solution that they're looking for and that all business owners are looking for.
Yeah, it's a methodology. So when you think about that business owner, often I would see work in my career that there would be CPAs, attorneys, other people, and I'd be like, how did they get that advice from that professional? Because that professional is better than that. And what I realized was often it was the flow of the communication, either from that advice, from that client's professionals between one another, or that the flow of information through that client, through that individual. So what we did was we put ourselves in the middle of that hub and spoke with the client. And so we help them interface with the different professionals. My COO was with Accenture for 13 years. We've literally created a Dewey Decimal System for that client and their personal records and their business records, so that we know that the other professionals are getting accurate current information when they're helping him in the planning process, taxes, financing, whatever it may be. But it comes down to that data and being able to understand the other professionals' roles. That's where I said, first 25 years of my career, I went out and got all those licenses. So I understand what they're looking for, what they want, what they need. That's what's really different about how we're approaching this. And it's not about being done with that client ever. Our mission statement at Archford is taking care of families. And those families continue. Someone may pass. It's not optional. Heck, we're all going to pass. But at some point, the next generation steps up. How do we have them prepared? How do we have the records prepared? Why is it that 62% of the businesses go out of business in the event of a death, a divorce, a disagreement with a partner, disease, or just distress, as far as where they are emotionally at that point? 62% of the businesses, and it's not capturing what has been done and what can continue to be done by the employees, by that closely held business. And so the more we help them and support them with records, the more they position themselves for thinking about, a great comment is, it's important, but it's not urgent. Most business owners deal with urgent every day instead of what's important longer term. And we're wanting the ones that are going to think about what's important long term, because they're the ones they're going to have the businesses that continue.
By building this hub and spoke wheel that you talked about, Jim, you have what you've created here is the breakdown of the silos that you and I talk about all the time, right? The passive aggressive behavior that you talk about all the time, that is just unnerving. When we're dealing with organizations, oftentimes, Jim, it really is about that silo mentality. People don't want to talk to one another. I think a lot of times they think it's a zero-sum game where if I'm the attorney, I can't introduce them to the next party, a CPA or a consultant, because they're going to take budget away from me, and that's not what's going on here at all. Right.
It's all boats will rise, is what I say to the professionals.
Yeah.
If we help this company do better, everyone's going to do better, because there's just a bigger pie in what's going on. And your word silo is a word that I constantly use and I pound my fist on. We have to break down those silos. In our organization, when we're communicating with these people, and help the owner understand he can't have silos with his team.
Jim, I know Al and I can talk to you all day about this. We're unfortunately coming down to the end of the program. I know you had one last question for
a real quick one. I know that there have been people that you've worked with who thank you for what you've done. Really quickly, what is it that somebody would thank you for, and how does that make you proud of what you do?
There was a guy that, one of the business owners that I worked with originally when we were building out this model, he was one of 3 companies I selected, and he got an offer for his company 9 years later, remarkable offer, We helped him close that within 2 weeks.
Wow.
And he came to me afterwards. He's already starting another company that we're involved with, helping him on. But he invited me to a concert, and he took me outside, and he said, "Jim, thank you." He goes, "You don't understand how you impact the lives of my employees, of my family, and how you're impacting the lives in your organization." And I'm telling you, I was misty-eyed. I'm misty-eyed right now, just thinking about it. But and he's a wonderful person. He's a person that I would aspire to be, as far as his generosity with people.
Well, Jim, you and Archford and your team there, Anna, Marnie, and the whole group at Archford Capital Strategies are doing a remarkable job. We are proud of the work that you're doing with the Owners Summit. Again, it's October 26th at the St. Louis Renaissance at the St. Louis Airport. Jim, how do we contact you and the folks at Archford?
Phone number is 618-416-7085. You can email me at j.maher, M-A-H-E-R, at Archford Capital, ArchfordCapital.com. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for the work you're doing. It takes people like you getting these types of initiatives out there. Thank you.
Jim, it's an absolute pleasure. We'll see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, folks, that is a wrap for the Advocates. Thanks, buddy. That was a great
It was a great interview and a great discussion. A huge problem. Jim Maher is a terrific resource.
Yeah, he really is. Folks, again, we are sponsored by the Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities. Thank you so much for joining us on The Advocates. We'll see you soon. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.